David, wake up.
What's going on, folks? We're back here with part two with Phillip Woolgar, CEO Tech, and we just have a little bit more stuff to dive into that we didn't touch on in part one. So, he's here again. How you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you doing, David?
Good,
Thanks
good,
for having
good.
me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so we can dive right into it. We wanted to talk about the E2 visa, is for folks that want to, migrate or move from Canada to America or from the UK to America. What is that exactly?
Okay, so the E2 visa actually is something that I did. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia, and for several reasons, I wanted to move to the US. And I decided that the best route to go would be through an E2 visa. And basically, what the E2 visa is it's a visa that's afforded to, sorry, I don't know why that happened or how that came up. What a E2 visa is it essentially is something that uh, gives people an option to immigrate to the US from Canada or other treaty countries. And so there's Canada, there's the UK, there's Australia involved in those. And the uh, the E2 visa makes it so that if you have 100K, you want to open up a business in the US, it gives you that ability. Or if you don't have 100K, you can do it with less money. So for my business, it was established in Canada for the past 10 years or so, and I decided to open an LLC for it. So I made an LLC in the US and incorporated it. By the way, Wyoming is a good state to do it in to avoid a lot of first of all, capital gains and various other issues that come up with taxation there. So, Wyoming's a good state, Texas and Florida, but Wyoming just makes it a lot easier. And the incorporation fees are very, very low. Um, so, what you do is you put together a package that you have to then submit to the embassy, and that includes a lot of little stuff that we can get into, but ultimately it's a business plan and it's showing your incorporation documentation and like your proof of ID, etc. And then that's a pretty lengthy process. And once you get that, then you can pretty much move to the US for 5 years. And if everything looks good, they'll approve you, get you into the US for 5 years, and then you can renew it every 5 years after that. But what a lot of people do is they get the DB5 visa at that point. That gives you actually the full citizenship in the United States. That requires more like a $1.3 million investment. And also, it requires you to hire 10 people over the course of 2 years. So that's pretty much it in a gist. And I can go into more specifics if you like.
Okay. Yeah, so my next question is, hmm, what goes into the business plan for this? What would be written in it?
The
Is it the
business
business plan, or is it things that are written down to for the embassy?
So this would be the embassy basically asks for a standard business plan as one of the components. That business plan will go into your problem and your solution like a standard business plan. So it covers a lot of the standard things that business plans go over. Uh, Problem solution, the milestones, your financials, the marketing strategy, the sales strategy, um, your projections, your expected profit and whatever, and then whatever cash flow you already have going in the company. But in the case of the E2 visa, they require a bit more documentation, such as a letter from the owner or the person who's immigrating, stating why they're opening that business there and what they intend to do after they say 2 years, but if you have a good application, they'll give you up to 5 years. So I think it's anywhere between 2 to 5 years. In my case, they gave me 5 years, and they want to make sure that you're not intending to live there forever. Most people who apply are kind of like wanting to do that, but they need to see that you have the intentions of going back to Canada. They want to see that you can support yourself. They want to make sure that you're going to grow the company. So these are all the things that you need to emphasize in the application. And you need to include some formal documents as well in that.
How much does it cost?
To apply, it's around $230 per applicant. And you have to fill out a DS-160 form. To fill that out and submit it, it's about 230 bucks per applicant. So for myself, I have my wife and my kid. We all had to fill out one of those forms, and that takes approximately 45 minutes per form. It goes into a lot of details about the history, the relationship with the main applicant, and in my case, it talks about my business and has a few questions about how I'm going to make it grow. So it's pretty in depth as far as that goes. The hardest part I actually found was just finding out where the form was. That's why they have lawyers who charge so much money. They basically charge you thousands of dollars just because they know where that form is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because when you go online, you say E2 visa application information. Maybe you can do it now. It's different now. I did this a year and a half ago, but now you can do it probably a lot easier with Chat GPT, and it'll tell you exactly where to go and what to do. But when I did it, I basically had to like crack open the internet and look at it with a magnifying glass to find out exactly where this information was. I think that's one of the filtering processes. They don't just want like anybody coming to the US. They're gonna make it like a scavenger hunt for you, or make it so you can afford a lawyer to do it. And the lawyers will charge you 12K in Canada. I
Yeah.
went to a lawyer and asked them, they said 12K to get everything done and submitted. And my friend as well, he went to a lawyer. He said he was in it for 30K. And then he came to me and I said, I could have saved you about 25K because I would
Your
have
fr-
charged.
your, your friend actually paid the 30K?
Yeah,
Oh my
still in the
gosh.
process. Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Lawyers are crazy. Because they know most people, they don't know what to do, might not know how to understand certain questions. So that's why they charge that much. But if you have a lawyer friend, or you take time to understand it, you're able to do it without having a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, they have the shortcuts. They know how to get it done. But if you have a tab, you just go to a URL, you just go to that, and you got the application right there. Problem is, it takes a while to find out where exactly that is.
Mhm. Um, can you also get an E2 by, let's say, investing into a company as well too?
Yeah, you can. You can be a shareholder of a company, even you don't even have to be in a majority shareholder. If you invest, those are the cases where it's usually the 100K. If you have the 100K to put it in the company, it's worth 1 million. You get 10% of that company, and that's a way for you to get in there. That when you think about why they're doing it that way, it's really because the US wants a lot of people who have money to come in. So they
Yeah.
want smart people with money because they want their economy to grow. What are their two goals? Their two goals are housing. That's one of them. Another goal of theirs is employment. And you know this because when you look at their tax code, what are tax write-offs given for? It's given for providing affordable housing and for employing people. So that's pretty much what they're doing when they create any kind of law. So they're going to make it difficult for you, first of all, or they're going to make it so you have a lot of money and you can get in that way. And in my case, even if I had the money to pay for it, I still don't want to give my money to a lawyer. And so I just kept digging and digging and digging, and I was able to eventually get it done. And that whole process of figuring things out took me probably a month or two. So you can save yourself time if you go through a lawyer, but it's going to cost you for sure.
Um, so let's say you're trying to move to the States as an employee. How does that work? Would it be?
But
It wouldn't be through E2. It would be through something else, right?
with the E2 specifically, it's for for business owners to invest.
Mm-hmm.
There's another option for somebody to hire you, which I know less about, but they would fill out an application. It might still be the E2, but they would basically fill it out and they would say, why do I need this person to work here? And they would prove that this person has a certain skill set that they can't find in the US. And that would justify them from bringing you into the country. So they're bringing in skill as well. And that ultimately addresses what the government wants to do, which is to create more jobs, because that brings an expert there to grow that company, to make it more successful over a company in another country. And then adding fuel, it basically adds fuel to that company to hire more people. But yeah, I think that might actually be an E2 as well. Just you have to check a different box on it and your employer would fill it out for you. But that's hard to do because, you know, there's over 330 million people here. So you have to prove, why is this Canadian, or why is this person from the UK or Australia or whatever more valuable, or why are they needed as opposed to somebody domestically. I mean, that's why you get people like Elon Musk, who's from South Africa. Actually, he was in Canada as well. Went to the University of Toronto, I think. That's how he's able to get there. Or somebody like Jim Carrey. You know, they can't really replace Jim Carrey. I mean, you can have different comedians or whatever, but that's how, you know, celebrities come down from Canada, or, you know, people who have a lot to offer. The tech industry can come down through employment.
Wow. Okay. Okay. How about real estate? Can you get there through real estate, buying property down
If
there,
you
or
have a company for real estate investing, it's like if you create a real estate investment trust, then that's something that you could do. That's um it would have to be a company. So you can't just be like a passive investor. I mean, a lot of people just, they come down, they flip houses and so on. You would have to essentially be creating a company from it. But if it's a company and you're investing, and I mean, it's still up to their discretion. So it's possible that if it's a real estate company, they're thinking we don't need that. So they could reject you for that, but it's just up to their discretion. It could be related to the business type as well. Like if if you want to go down to the States and open up a bunch of like adult video stores, they might be like, you know, we're good for that. We don't need any of those. So it can depend on what type of company that you bring.
it's got to be specific categories that they're looking for, and not just any type of business is
Yeah, but they
specific.
don't really let you know exactly what the categories are.
Mhm.
So it's up to their discretion whether or not they want to bring you on. And like, even if they don't like you, because you have to go to an interview as well. If you're from Canada, you go to Toronto, to the US Embassy there. And it's usually about it. Well, for me anyway, it was like 8 or 10 months after I finished the application that I went to Toronto. I had to fly there and stand in a lineup, and then you go to this window, and then they interview you there, and they ask you about your business and why you're opening it up, like what your sales strategy is. They want to basically also see that you're not a crazy person, and they want to make sure that you're like a legitimate business person and that you can most likely operate a business properly. And then they bring you there for the document verification as well. So you have to prove your income that's coming in. So that's just the last step. If you get to the interview process and you know you can go to the interview and hold yourself together and everything and talk articulately to them and show that you got the documentation to back up your application, then there's a very good chance that they'll let you in. And that's really the only part you really have to do if you have a lawyer. So if you got a lawyer, they'll just ask you for the documentation, and then they'll say, okay, show up to this address at this time and bring your binder. It's kind of stressful. You know, you're there with this binder, and then they don't let you in as well. If you have like a cell phone on you, you have to keep your cell phone off, or like you can't even bring it in. You can't bring a computer or anything. and then your headshot has to be perfect. You can't get it done at like Walmart or Walgreens or anything. It has to be a really professional headshot, because if it's off by a little bit, then they're not going to let you in. So I went with my cell phone and my computer and all the wrong stuff. I got it all wrong. And fortunately, I went to this store just down the street. I had to put my backpack there. I put all my stuff there. Could only have basically the clothes you're wearing and a binder and your passport. Yeah, and they locked it up. I even had to get a new photo done. So they're super strict about that. And you have to wait. The biggest part for a lot of people is the 8 to 10 months that you have to wait. So people go through the process and they think that it's going to be very, very easy, like maybe not easy, but it's not going to take a long time. But for me, the whole process took like about a year from the time I figured out what the heck I was doing to fill out the forms and then wait for the interview. It was like 10 months of waiting. But I think that might be because of the whole pandemic thing. They were kind of behind on stuff, but it is a long wait.